The James Harden mess rolls on with $100,000 fine. Plus, are the Bulls the perfect team, just missing one little element? And we're going to play real or fake. Is somebody becoming a 3-time MVP? It's all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Yeah, it's your team every day, and we're here for you every day, Monday through Friday, with rotating hosts all week long. On Wednesdays, it's us. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. You find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, on Twitter at NOLA Jake. We just never get a boring Tuesday.
No, Tuesday nights are just, you get little bits of fun information all Tuesday. We are the luckiest people on the network. We always have something fun to talk about. So yeah, we got expert predictions on the awards, all the awards. We're going to play real or fake to see if one of these 2-time MVPs wins a third. We heard from Lonzo Ball talking about the Bulls. The Bulls are in such a unique, weird spot. We'll talk about that in the second segment. But Jake, it's the gift that keeps on giving. The James Harden saga with the Philadelphia 76ers find the maximum amount the NBA can find a player in this circumstance, $100,000 for calling Daryl Morey a liar, under the guise of basically saying it's a trade demand. The union respectfully disagreed. They say, hey, no, you know what? Pardon us, but we disagree respectfully with your assessment. They're appealing this. But Jake, I don't know, man. I feel like the league is saying, here's the 100,000. We know why you're calling him a liar. This is what we're going to say the fine is about, but basically shut your mouth about this whole liar thing, or else it's going to get much, much worse.
Like, look, I get what the league is, their argument here of him saying, I'll never play for a team where like Daryl Morey is like, well, okay, that's essentially a public trade demand at that point because they assume Daryl Morey won't get fired. So
right.
I don't know. The Players Association is probably going to view this, by the way, as like, no, that's just like a public request for them to fire Daryl Morey, maybe. And is there anything against that?
That's better. That's better. You know?
Maybe for when it comes to fines, I guess it's something, that's for sure. This wasn't what I expected. Last week we were talking about how, we're going to see James Harden put like the pressure on Daryl Morey, and like the exact opposite happened with that.
Yeah. Look, between the league coming down on him, this is such a fascinating kind of scenario because he has no leverage. He has zero leverage anywhere. He doesn't have a suitor out there. No one's ponying
that's making
up.
Like a good offer for him, we should say. Like,
well, no
Clippers want him.
No one is like, okay, no one is willing to give up what Daryl Morey wants, first of all, but also no one's willing to give up enough that gets close to matching the salary here that makes it worth making that trade at all. Like Philly, forget that Morey is kind of holding strong, and he said we're not going to make a move that makes us worse. And he shouldn't. He can't. You got Joel Embiid. We're sitting there waiting for Joel Embiid to drop the bomb, because I don't even know if Joel Embiid's going to be there at the end of this season. He might be on a new team if this thing continues to fall apart. Morey has to hold this whole thing together. So fine, James, you want to get traded? Yeah, we'll trade you, but the way you're acting, the way you've played, nobody wants to give up what you think you're worth. So you've screwed yourself, and you're screwing the team on the way out, and that makes people want you even less. So it's just a big mess that I don't see how it gets solved unless Philly just throws up their hands and says, we'll take a bunch of crap for James Harden.
I think it gets solved kind of how the Ben Simmons situation got solved, which was another team having a disgruntled superstar. The irony here is it was James Harden with the Brooklyn Nets and wanting out of that, right? Because they played hardball with Ben Simmons. They were like, we're not going to trade you unless it's the right offer and all of that. And they didn't. And So this is going to take like another disgruntled superstar somewhere that's not Damian Lillard, right? Because
I mean,
no, is that where you were going with that? Is that where your face was there?
Where else are you going to find a disgruntled superstar?
I mean, you just hope something happens later. The way I look at it is this: does Portland want Harden? I don't imagine they do, right? Like Philly wants Lillard.
Philly can take Lillard. That would be obviously the best case scenario. Portland can take Harden and say, look, man, we will work with you. We're going to turn around and flip you when we can. So this is, kind of like trying to work your way, smuggle your way across the border. We'll be the mule that smuggles you into Los Angeles, but you got to work with us here first. That's basically how I see Portland.
But then I don't know why, if they're going to get him to Los Angeles eventually, if it's Portland, why not just get a deal done between Philly and LA and like,
you can make it a 3-team deal.
Well, you get what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know if it's you make it a 3-team deal and it gets all routed properly. But if it's like one, then a month or two later, it's the other one. It's like, I don't know, just do that. Involve the 2 original teams here and problem solved. It's a part of it. It goes to what you said though. Like no one really wants Harden that much.
No.
The one team with a disgruntled superstar, I don't even think he's kind of disgruntled in Damian Lillard, wants to rebuild and go with like a youth movement, right? You need like a disgruntled superstar on like a good team where this just kind of makes sense. So like, I don't know who that is right now. The next disgruntled superstar that's going to ask for a trade is probably going to be Joel Embiid. And that complicates this even more.
It is. If you're putting odds on who would the next guy be to ask out? Look across the league. I can't think of anybody besides Joel Embiid that would be next in line.
Could Miami somehow do this if they're not going to get Lillard and Portland's holding strong on that? Can they go, we'll give you the Lillard offer for Harden? Like, does that make sense? That doesn't make Philly. That doesn't make Philly better, right? Like you're not getting a good player in return. You're getting picks and young guys, and that's probably not what they're looking for, right?
I feel like. They can try, but I feel like they meet the same resistance.
It's the same issue.
I think what happens is Miami gets involved for Embiid and makes we'll give you Bam Adebayo and get Joel Embiid back because Joel loves Jimmy Butler and those two guys have like. Not that I'm advocating for that because I love Bam Adebayo. I really, really like the way he plays. I'd rather have Bam than Joel Embiid because of age and health and all of that stuff and just the way it works. They have been obviously much more successful in Miami with Bam and that. So I am not saying that's the trade they should make, but that's a trade that they could make. And I know that Embiid would love to go to Miami and play with Jimmy Butler.
Okay, I got a crazy idea.
Oh, okay.
Such a pro here. I'm going to be such a pro. Could you trade DeMar DeRozan as the centerpiece for a James Harden?
We didn't
even set this up. Like I came up with that like basically like 2 seconds ago.
Okay, so what's the framework of this deal?
Okay, so look, you can make the salaries work, right? You're probably off by like 20 million. I don't even have Harden's cap hit in front of me this year. DeRozan's at like 28.5 million. It's probably, like 10, 15 million you're going to need in this. But say that's the centerpiece of the deal. Is DeMar DeRozan going to Philly along with, I don't know, someone else or two to kind of like make it work? And,
Harden is 35.5.
That's actually not that bad. You need like one other player in the deal then. Okay. So like, I should have known that. And so it's DeRozan and another player plus some picks for James Harden. Does that solve both teams' problems? Because we should talk about the Bulls maybe, I don't know, in the next segment or something like that.
Yeah. You could go. Does that solve the problem? If Harden wants to Chicago, that could maybe.
I think Chicago might make that deal, right? Like, did I just solve the problem? I think Chicago would say yes to that. I think we'll talk about their salary cap situation coming up because that's a big factor into this. I don't think you're going to get a better player for Harden than DeMar DeRozan, who has looked like an MVP candidate for a little bit at least.
Well, that does bring up an interesting scenario. Why don't we talk about the Bulls and fold this in?
Yeah,
And
screw whatever we were going to talk about next segment. Let's go with this idea
get
that
this,
came
it's
up in
all
the
part of
moment
it.
right now.
It's all part of it. It's all part of it. So let's think about that process, exactly what Jake just said, and move on to the Chicago Bulls. We'll do that after I talk about Ibotta. Ibotta is going to save you money where you're already spending money. You're going to pick up burgers and hot dogs for your weekend barbecue, right? You're already spending this money. You're already going grocery shopping. So why not download the Ibotta app, which gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you are buying. You can link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and you get cash back. It's super easy. And here's the key element there. It's cash back, not points that don't amount to a damn thing. With Ibotta, you get real cash money, which we all love, that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, put it on a gift card. Maybe you can give a gift with the money that you're already getting back, so you don't have to spend anything extra. The average Ibotta user gets $120 back per year that can cover the cost of the entire shopping trip. So go download the app right now. Use the code LOCKED. Ibotta is offering you $5 for just trying Ibotta. Use the code LOCKED when you register. Go to the App Store, go to the Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app. Use the code LOCKED. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store. Make sure you're using the code LOCKED. Thank you so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Why not go and check out the podcast of the teams that we've talked about? Locked On Sixers, Locked On Bulls, talking about Lonzo Ball. Also, I mean, we've got stuff to talk about. Locked On Celtics and Locked On Pelicans. Plenty to talk about there. Each show represented on the Locked On Podcast Network. So go check it out. So Lonzo was on the Trey Young has a podcast now. Like, come on, enough. Like,
keep shooting 32%, Trey Young. I already know I'm getting tweeted at. I already know who's tweeting at me for this one.
That's okay. Yeah. So now Trey Young has a podcast. Every player has a podcast, and Trey from the Points by Trey Young. So anyway, Lonzo was basically saying that he feels that the Bulls built a perfect team for him, around him. It's the most that he's ever been involved in an organization. They got the perfect team, and he felt that could fit his game and really just, quote, do what I wanted to do. And now he's been hurt, and the Bulls have been mediocre. There is something here with Lonzo and the Bulls. Like, he is the kind of like the magic ingredient. It's almost like the flaming Mo, the Simpsons with the flaming Mo, where the ingredients all mix together fine, but it's until you light it on fire that it becomes the drink. And he's like the lighting it on fire. And so without him, the Bulls have been kind of hanging on. They, bring back Vucevic. They kind of like bring back Kobe White. They bring back Ayo Dosunmu. They're kind of keeping things together, almost in anticipation of one of these days, and it's not going to be this season, but one of these days, Lonzo is going to come back, and things are going to go back to being the way they were when he was healthy.
So when he was healthy for them, which is a while ago now, back in the 2021-2022 season, he played 35 games and they were 22-13. Like, they had a winning percentage of 63%. Like, there is definitely something to this. They have to hold out hope because their cap sheet sucks. And their future is not bad enough to completely bottom out, and they're not going to really be more than a play-in tournament team. So you have to hope for something, because it's not going to come from the group of guys that they have right now, unfortunately. You have a team with DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Vucevic. Like, you're not going to lose enough games to be getting a top lottery pick, but you're also not going to be good enough to be challenging for the 6th seed or better. So you have to kind of pin your hopes on Lonzo Ball. That is also a dangerous game. he's going to have missed 2.5 seasons, almost 3 years of basketball. And like, that's your savior. Like, that's not even a shot at Lonzo Ball. I think he is very good for that team, but a dude not having played basketball for that long,
crazy.
I wouldn't pin my hopes on it, right? Like, some of the passing's still going to be there, right? He wasn't a dude that relied on like elite athleticism, in his game. It was kind of craftiness and other things. He became a good 3-point shooter while he was in New Orleans. So, there's still maybe a spot for him. I don't know if he's going to be the defensive guy that he once was for them, right? Like there is so much there that would make me so nervous. 2.5 years. If that's your plan, like hope isn't a plan. That's just, you can't do anything else. Yeah.
And it's weird, right? It's not like he's torn his ACL or anything like that, knock on wood. It's a weird meniscus kind of like there's a nerve, I guess, involved. There has to be for it to continue to hurt. It's not something that like, I guess, let me rephrase that. It seems very out of the ordinary.
It is like, this shouldn't be this thing. In like, at one point they were like, we don't really know what's going on. Like why he still has pain. Like doctors were kind of mystified with this. And then today on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, he was showing that he could get up and out of a chair on one leg. Like that was good. Like, I don't doubt he's making progress. Just that is a lot of rust to shake off. That is a lot of rust to shake off.
And so sure, the Bulls seem to be saying, we know we've got a good team when everything is together, and we have confidence that everything will come together next year. But like you mentioned before, DeMar DeRozan is not under contract for next year, and he's in his 30s, right? So is he 34? Like he's not young, but he's still effective, right? So how much
just
more?
Turned 34, basically 2 weeks ago. Happy birthday, DeMar DeRozan.
Happy birthday, DeMar DeRozan. But I just don't see this. If I know they're stuck, they're kind of stuck.
They're stuck.
But I don't see this as something that you can really. I don't think this should be the plan. Like I feel for Lonzo Ball. I think what Chicago had before was good. Going through this and kind of meandering in mediocrity is not great. And I don't think that this is sustainable, because at some point you're going to have to make a decision on DeRozan. You're going to have to put a team around these guys. You're going to have to re-sign Patrick Williams, who's going to be restricted. You already have Zach LaVine on the books for $43 million, Lonzo Ball for 21 and change, Vucevic for 20, Kobe White for 12. Like the second apron starts to come into play. So now you start to worry, like, why not entertain a deal, like you said, for DeMar DeRozan? Why not become one of those dark horse candidates?
So thinking about it when you're looking at their cap sheet makes sense. So say they lose DeMar DeRozan for nothing, bolts in free agency after this year. Like, okay, you're still not going to be a bottom tier team challenging for the top pick in the draft. Zach LaVine's not a bad player. Say you re-sign him to a fair deal, whatever that looks like. Okay, you've just run it back and you're the exact same team. Like, this is a way where they've just got to do something. It feels like you have to do something almost for the sake of just doing something.
I love being in that position as a team.
Look, man, like I
gotta do something.
It ain't my fault. Yeah, look, you could do a whole lot worse of somethings than James Harden just to see. Yeah. So that's why when I look at this, and like I hadn't planned that segue out at all until it kind of came up in the moment and I was thinking about it. But like, okay, we might lose DeMar DeRozan. We don't really want to sign DeMar DeRozan to a 4-year deal that's going to carry him at that point through to like his 39-year-old season. Let's try and trade him. Philly can still be pretty contendery with him there and whatever else you include in that. We get Harden as an upgrade. He's better than DeMar DeRozan is. I think that's fair to say. Like, I don't know. Everyone kind of wins in this.
It's something to consider. I guess the question would be is just, does Harden want to go to Chicago? Like that would be a fair question. And if he doesn't want to be there, then you run the risk of
Then it's the same thing as if DeMar DeRozan bolted after this coming season. It's the exact same thing. And like, you were going to be screwed no matter what. I'd rather at that point roll the dice with Harden then at least.
I don't see a way out for Chicago.
No, there isn't one.
I don't see a way out unless there's a major teardown. And I really do question the ability to tear it down. One thing we haven't seen in this new collective bargaining agreement yet, because obviously we can't, is how does a complete teardown work from beginning to end? We've already seen what being close to the second apron does to a team. I've seen it with Boston already. They gave away Grant Williams for nothing. So we've seen the high end, and we're going to continue to see the high end. Milwaukee is up there. They're going to have to make tough decisions next offseason. There are teams that are at the top of this, look, Phoenix, they're going to have to make tough decisions. But what does a team like Chicago, who's clearly in this middle ground, maybe they stay in the middle ground and that's just what Chicago fans have been used to. But if they were to tear it down, what would it look like? I have no idea. So if you're going to stay in the middle, if this is kind of where you are, then entertain your trade possibilities. And maybe you do entertain a trade of DeMar DeRozan. That DeMar for Harden is an interesting one, man, because that might be your best chance. I still think Lillard is the way to go.
Yeah, I don't think Portland wants to do that. Like, I don't think Portland wants any part of that. And I could see the Bulls being like, oh, okay, we can talk ourselves into this because we're a little bit desperate.
Yeah. Maybe that's how you
solved it. I solved it. We got it, man.
All right.
This trade's going to happen, and we're going to be brilliant on Locked On NBA. You can take some of the credit too.
Put a pin in this. I'm just going to say, because I suggested the Chicago segment, I'm just going to say I inspired Jake.
My muse here.
Yes. Let's play a game of real or fake when we come back with the future MVP. Is someone winning MVP number 3? We'll do that in just a second. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this Locked On NBA podcast. Hey, how about checking out the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast? Not only is Josh Lloyd like a megastar on this network, he's got all the team previews coming up. I know the Celtics one is up. He's done many of them. This is the time where everybody's getting back into fantasy basketball. There is no one like Josh Lloyd covering your fantasy basketball. That's what makes this show just a complete juggernaut. You have to listen to this show if you want an advantage in your fantasy league. All right, Jake, the good folks at ESPN have taken some time to put out expert picks for MVP in every major award this season. So they put out their list of top 10 MVP candidates, who they think in order. So at the top, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those are at the top. So let's play a game of real or fake, Jake. Real or fake? One of these two guys is going to win his 3rd MVP this season.
I think it's real. And I think it's going to be Jokic. If you had made this question more narrow, I would have said yes to Jokic here. When we were doing awards and stuff, I picked Embiid. Looking back on that, it should have been Jokic. I was wrong, everybody. It should have been Jokic. I think you picked Jokic and stood by that. And it was you could just see voters not giving him his 3rd straight MVP or 3rd MVP, whatever it was. I can't remember if it's straight. I think it was.
Well, it was 3rd straight. Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been
because they didn't want to put him in that category of
right. No, it's weird. We even talked about it on the show, right? You do that. He's an all-time great category. He already is an all-time great, but he is missing the title piece. And something feels weird about it. I get it. Well, he won the title. So who cares now? He can win as many MVPs as you want to give him now. And you don't feel weird about it. The only thing that stopped people from really voting for him is taken out of the equation. He might win freaking 4 more or something like that with the way he plays.
He's amazing. I think he's getting into what Giannis is facing, victim of his own success. Yeah. That he's Jokic is his own category of player because the passing and just the way he can control a game from the center spot. His size and his ability to do what he does makes him so unique in the NBA. But even so, I definitely feel like if he just has another Jokic season, people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's what he does. And he'll be in the MVP conversation, but I think like him and Giannis are going to start to drop. I think people are maybe looking for other places to put their votes because, like, yeah, this is what Giannis does. This is what Jokic does. It's just same. It's not something I like. It's not something that I like that happens. I think Jokic should have won his third straight MVP this past season. I get it, the way the season ended and blah, 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 blah. Not going to rehash everything, but he should have won it. I don't like narrative stuff. You got to look at it season to season because it's our responsibility, not mine because I'm not a voter, but if I was a voter, my responsibility is I'm a journalist. I'm documenting history, right? This is if Giannis Antetokounmpo is the MVP, if I feel like he's the MVP, it doesn't matter if he's won it once before or 10 times before, he'll win it again because that's what I think he should, what should happen.
I think voters lose a little bit of like sight of the like definition of the award, what the scope of the award is, which is like this season, and they're trying to put it in like historical context. And I actually talked to some voters about this, and they kind of felt like, no, we got to like kind of keep like the pantheon like proper and things like that. So it does like creep in, but
that's bull.
No, I mean, I know you're going to say that. That's not what this is, right? Like, it's who was the MVP
you
this
tell
season.
Them for me, Jake, that I said that's bull.
You probably know some of them, but
I'm sure I do.
It's like, I'm not getting
I'll myself on media day, I guess. No, seriously, no, I get it, but that's not our jobs. That's not our jobs. We are not protecting history. That's absolutely the wrong approach. We're not sitting here trying to protect history and make sure that Magic is on this pedestal and Bird is on this pedestal.
It's part of it is like rings culture, right? Like part of it is that, and now he has that. So like, I don't know. I don't worry about this for Jokic anymore. Like, I think it's fine. He needed, even if he had just made the finals without winning and dominating the finals like he did, I think it kind of like freed him up that it's like, okay, I had the success I needed to. Y'all good now with the postseason, and we can just go back to like taking that out of the equation. But unfortunately, for better or worse, it is in there.
So I'm gonna answer the question and say it's fake. I don't think
I got
Giannis.
that.
I don't think Giannis and Jokic. I don't think either of those guys wins the MVP, which leaves it open to a lot of other players. It could be like Devin Booker. So I'll go through the top 10. Jokic, Giannis, Luka 3rd, Tatum 4, Embiid 5, Durant 6, Booker and Curry tied for 7th, Butler at 8, 9th is a tie between Anthony Edwards and Kawhi Leonard. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Anthony Davis are 10th. So notably, no LeBron James in any of this. So that's one thing. I'm going to look down past that and say, Luka has the potential, depending on what Dallas is able to do. But with Kyrie on that team, I think there's just so much room for variance. I don't know. Tatum is an interesting case because I think Tatum right now is I don't think he's at a level where he can be the MVP, but if he raises his game, this upcoming season is going to be a huge season for him. Porzingis there. I think there is a possibility that Tatum, if the Celtics take a top seed and Tatum plays more consistently, then I think there's a chance that Tatum can kind of sneak in there. But more likely, I'm looking at maybe somebody like Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. Somebody from the Phoenix Suns has a real strong chance. And if you heard people talking about after the USA-Germany thing, Anthony Edwards should be at the top of this list.
I mean, he looks good for them. I'm not going to put him on there because I don't trust that team with Rudy Gobert on.
No, me neither.
But that's
but I think a safe pick might be, if you're looking down, maybe you can open FanDuel and get some decent odds. Devin Booker might be.
I don't hate that one.
Odds.
Like, I don't hate that one at all. Like, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. That's where I would go for kind of like an outlier. I think we might be in for like a little bit of a change at the top of the list for MVP. Tatum has a possibility. Booker, I think, is a strong candidate. Luka, and we'll go from there. Want to just quickly run through some of these other predictions? Rookie of the year, they got Chet Holmgren just ahead of Victor Wembanyama, and Scoot Henderson kind of a comfortable third. We've talked about this before. I like the Holmgren pick for Rookie of the Year just because he's got that year of experience, even though he missed it, and he looks good, and he's probably gonna have better teammates.
Look, you're going to get better odds on him than Wembanyama is per FanDuel. So if you want to kind of get in on that and try and take like a flyer on a guy, like that's the way to go. It's worth noting, though, I think in this that Wembanyama got more first place votes than Holmgren did. So it's those like second and third place votes that are like really elevating him. But that means they're predicting like a very just like solid season for him. That works in Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. I like that pick. He's my pick right now. Defensive Player of the Year, usual candidates at the top: Jaren Jackson Jr., Bam Adebayo, Giannis, Evan Mobley, Marcus Smart, and we can go down the list: Mikal Bridges, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, Brooke Lopez, Jaden McDaniels, Robert Williams from Boston is 10th. So, I mean,
give me Bam on this one, like big time.
Yeah. I can see it. I mean, he always has a strong case. I'm going to go with Mobley. I'm going to go with Mobley in Cleveland. I think there's, I don't know. I'm just going to go with Mobley. We'll just leave it at that.
Look, it's a good choice. Like, I've got no problem with that one. I'm not like you're crazy for that sort
You're
of
an
thing.
idiot.
They had the best defense in the league last year. I mean,
I think it's going to be like a year late in recognizing him. Not that Jaren Jackson Jr. shouldn't have been recognized, but yeah. So anyway, 6th man of the year. Interesting. We talked about this in the podcast. Chris Paul is number 1. We don't even know if he's going to start or sit. He was like, what do you mean come off the bench? Followed by Austin Reeves, Russell Westbrook 3rd, Tyler Hero. I guess people don't expect him to be traded. Emmanuel Quickley in New York, who was right behind Malcolm Brogdon this past season. Malik Monk, Brogdon is 6th, and then so on and so forth.
The Austin Reeves hype train is going to be through the roof this year.
I mean, out of control.
It's already out of control, I think. It's actually kind of deserved. Like, I'll give some of that. Looks really good for Team USA as well.
Do you think I don't think he's going to win 6th man of the year because I think he's going to end up being a starter.
Okay, I've got nothing to that one.
I have no idea.
That's it's like sound logic. Like, yeah, if he's a starter, he's not going to win. If he's coming off the bench, like, I don't know. I think it's probably like his to lose, to be perfectly honest.
Sure. I'll take Quickly because, whatever. And okay, so most improved player, Cade Cunningham, number 1. Cunningham has impressed people at Team USA. He seems to be a strong candidate after a down year. Jabari Smith's behind him, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green from Houston, Josh Giddey, and so on. Cunningham, strong choice. I'm all in on that. I think Detroit could be a team that is like one of those tough out teams this year.
Oh yeah, they're going to be a pain. They have some young guys that want to play, and I like the fit of some of them too. Mobley's intriguing on this. If he can jump to being like a 20-point per game scorer, along with what he does defensively, does he get more consideration than he should? And I actually went on Locked On Cavs to talk with them about like the growth of his offense and could he look like Anthony Davis? And they surprised me, man. Chris Manning was like, no, I was like, we're talking about him being like this. And it was like, well, I see him as being the centerpiece over Donovan Mitchell, like long term. So, and I was like, oh, okay, if you're going to use, I know, right? I was like, I thought he was kind of like 1B, and he's like, no, to us, he's like 1A. And I'm like, okay, if you use him as a 1A guy, like he's going to be in the running for this.
Donovan Mitchell for James Harden.
Do we have another 30 minutes here? You only do that if you are 1,000% convinced that Mitchell is leaving, right? Like that is oh crap. And even then I try and trade him for something else. Yeah. No, I'm not saying I would do it, but no, I get the logic. Since we're throwing out, you threw out your wild James Harden trade. We just started talking about Cleveland. I remember Tim Bontemps
talking about it on the Hoop Collective podcast, saying they should trade. They won't, but they should because he's not going back.
I get it. Like I totally see
don't think Harden,
the logic there. You could just get more for Mitchell, right?
You could, but just to say, why would they want Harden? Well, you've got strong defense behind him, so him getting burned won't matter quite as much. Plus, running the pick and roll
he will get
with
burned.
Harden, and it gives them the shooting that they didn't quite have. I mean, not Mitchell shot fine from three, but Harden
is Harden, and when he does what he does, is the dude who's putting 40 in the playoffs.
I don't think he wants to go to Cleveland either. But hey,
just
to end the podcast on another one. I like Cade Cunningham for most improved player. How about that? We'll end on that. Or do you want to do coach of the year? Let's quickly coach of the year. Dagnall in Oklahoma City, Spoelstra perpetually at the top, Malone, Taylor Jenkins in Memphis. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, coaches on good teams, right? Like on either established good teams or young enough teams that could make a jump.
Yeah, it's Dagnall because everybody expects OKC to make the playoffs.
Yeah, to not be a play-in tournament team again.
Yeah. Sure. Let's go with that. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's end the podcast because we're dragging along now. Send us your weird fake James Harden trades. Put it in the comments section. Let us know what you think. We're just spitting them out there. Why not?
Or if you want to defend Trae Young, that's cool too.
Sure, if you want. Do that. Hey, on Wednesdays, we're here for you every Wednesday. It's me, John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. And find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, on Twitter at NOLA Jake.
Love to have you here Monday through Friday. Love to have you here watching the show, letting us know what you think in the comment section. Love to have you sharing the podcast. Tell everybody, tell your friends they should be watching and listening to the Locked On NBA podcast right here in the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.